Coach, we'll start with an easy one. How excited are you for baseball season to start?
Ready. It's time. It's time to get it going. We always say that about this time of the year. We all get tired of looking at each other. So yeah, when you're working hard, you're trying to figure things out. We've got a few pieces to put. We've got the pieces. We just need to know what order to put them in, and I don't think you can truly figure that out until you get started. But I think our guys are chomping as well as we are.
You guys have a stretch of games early on, but that Michigan won the national runner-up. How big of a test will that be for your team?
Well, we're going to focus. Here comes coach talk. We're going to focus on Friday. Villanova's going to come in here. We were talking about today. It's any team. It takes one guy, a good guy in the mound. He can take you down, no matter who you are or what you're doing. But we're excited that we added that one for a reason because one, I've got a relationship with Eric, and we go back a long way, and we made it happen. We were kind of full, but we kind of shuffled some things around because we thought it would be an interesting matchup with them already here. It's convenient, so I think it's going to be a wonderful addition for not only the teams playing, but all the fans and everybody.
Coach, what does it mean to have a potentially dominant arm at the back end of your bullpen like Dabo?
It shortens the game, and ideally that's what you're trying to do is shorten the game. And he's looked really good in doing that. But as I just said here, it's like we got to figure it out. In the game, I want to see it in the game. But he's if he can continue to do what he's doing, it takes a 9-inning game and makes it really a 7-inning game.
How's he different in the game?
I think with that, you don't have to pace yourself. You go out there and you kind of let it out. He's got one of the better arms in the country, and I think it's a mindset too. You got to be willing to take the ball, when the game's on the line. And I like the fact that he's been there, done that. He's got some seasoning to him to go with the good stuff. So the biggest part for him is he's embraced the role. All he wants to do is win, so we're excited to see how that. And I think we're going to have some leads to give it to him. It'll be nice to see how this shapes up during the first part of the season.
Skip, what's it like? Oh, go ahead.
Last year, when it comes to Dabbs, last year you said that kind of sliding into that Sunday role as a starter, you could use him as a Saturday closer if it came to that and you needed to get those first 2 wins. Is there a chance that we see that this season?
On a starting role?
If
no, right now, no. I say no, but nothing is etched in stone at this point. But we feel like we've got probably 5 guys right now that are vying for, and that's not including him. We could if we wanted to, but not including him for the weekend spots. So if we can leave him in that closer role, it's no secret. You looked at some of it we were talking about today. We probably are 6 to 8 games better last year if we close those things out. So if you got a guy with his ability, his capability, I think it helps him. I think it helps us. If we leave him right where he is on the back end.
Skip, how has Spencer been he was able to avoid the sophomore slump, and just being his presence on the team, what has it done for your organization?
Oh, it's great. It's funny. Even if, think about that, if he had just hit 10 home runs, we'd call that a sophomore slump. No, he's a relaxed player. He's a good player. And I'll even say he's a generational type player. And what's neat to see is that he's just enjoying playing. He and I were kind of the only ones in the training room today. Just gave us a little chance to talk. He's excited to use the experience that he's already had, and he's just like everybody else, just looking forward to getting started.
Do you think he could go #1 overall in the 2020 draft?
Absolutely, I do. I think if you ask him, his motivation, that's something that is certainly an accomplishment. But he wants to win. Can I see him doing that? No question. That cat is he's a special player. So that'd be kind of cool.
You mentioned a second ago how having Dabovich in a closer role is going to really allow him to kind of just release it and not necessarily have to hold back to conserve energy for multiple innings. What does that necessarily do for his stuff that allows him to throw harder or to be just a little bit more aggressive? What does that do for him as far as his repertoire goes?
Well, I would say last year, he's probably pitching, low 90s and touched some mids, whereas now, he's been mid to upper by going in there for that 1 inning and then able to throw that breaking ball off of that. I just look at when you got a guy like that, the stuff that he now has, as opposed to it impacting 1 game on the weekend or potentially a week, now he has the ability to impact 3. And it's been good to see because he doesn't have to conserve. He can just go let it out.
You kind of talked about with Levine last time how much he's blown you away. What's kind of been working so well for him this offseason, or what do you kind of envision him being, or like his role being?
Yeah, well, I'd say one, confidence. He's come back confident. He's come back on a mission. But I think if he can give us, because he's got a power arm, and if he can give us those innings in the middle, and get us to the Daboviches of the world, that's going to be a huge role for us. When we were talking about shortening the game, some of the question marks, and they're good question marks, I don't mean them in a negative way, but some of the good question marks is trying to figure out those middle innings. But when you're talking about guys right now with the Thorntons and Tolmans and guys like that, the quality of those middle innings are going to be, to me, closer stuff. So it's going to be fun to see that, and he's one of the guys certainly in the mix for that.
Is there a lot of pressure on Spencer with those national speculations out there in the draft? How does he stay focused and not kind of have that weighing on him?
It's a great question because, I'm an old man, and so it's easy for me to sit around and say, hey man, just concentrate on, far be it, I look at everybody here, far be it to be 21 years old and know that within a few months you're a multi-millionaire, and when you get to those types of picks, that's a lot of money, between the 1 and 2. So, but what's unique about him, and I said this 1,000 times, he's a really, really good baseball player, but he's a really, really good person. And his parents too, they're financial, they handle money and taxes and stuff like that. So I think if any kid that's going to understand, hey man, the money part, just chill out, we got you. He's got great advice at home, but he's, I've been really proud of how he's handled it for the age that he is. It's a very unique, and has to be a tough thing to do.
How much do preseason rankings factor into your assessment of your team?
It's not. We say we want to be in the conversation, for a national championship, and it's nice when people are saying nice things about your team, because we've heard all things good, about the team. It's nice to have good things, but at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad, the opinions don't really matter. It's what you do on the field and what you do, what's going on in that clubhouse. So it's nice that people are recognizing, I think, some of the things that the guys have done and over the summer, and to put ourselves in this position. But at the end of the day, that means absolutely nothing, because you got to win the baseball games on the field.
You mentioned there's 5 guys kind of vying for those starting spots. Have you kind of locked in any of the days?
No, at this point, we don't really want to. Just with today's, today's access to information, we want to, not do somebody's job for them right now. So they got to prepare for 5 or 6 people, and truly, because we're considering that. So we're going to withhold the starting rotation at this point. Sorry to be so coy.
Justin mentioned that when he was in junior college, they didn't have a pitching coach, and he kind of had to develop a routine by himself. Have you noticed anything that he does kind of a little offbeat, or when he got Jason, did he kind of transform and kind of go into the mold that Jason really wanted?
Well, JK's got a plan, but I think part of that plan is realizing everybody's different. So, I like the fact, I think we become, I say we, but a lot of kids that we recruit now become so dependent on a routine. They're so dependent on whatever. You got to figure out your own craft, because at the end of the day, you got to own it. Yeah. And so no pitching coach, I think that's an advantage for him. I think JK, what he's able to offer and suggest in terms of preparation and pre-start routine, all of those things are a plus for him. But at the end of the day, everybody's different, and we allow those guys the flexibility to kind of go through. There's certain things we do in our library to prepare, but each guy's different. They're going to prepare differently. So the fact that he's done it on his own isn't a big shock. And I'm not I hate that type of stuff, excuses about, it's like conditions are perfect. Sometimes we may ask you, hey man, we need you now, go get ready. And you got to be able to prepare, because the conditions aren't always perfect.
Skip, you mentioned the type of generational player that Spencer is. Would you say, though, he's able to play another position other than first base?
There's no question. And that's, we get that question a lot from the guys on the other side of it. But he just happens to be on a team right now that's filled with, probably 2 first-round left-side infielders. But if you ever watch him take ground balls on the other side, it looks good. So it will not surprise me. If he were to move to another position, whether it be third base, second base, left field, something like that, he's athletic enough and good enough he could do that.
In your coaching experience, have you seen before that a group of newcomers coming into a program have allowed that team to have such a high jump in what people have thought about the preseason expectations for that?
You said from the time these juniors, from when they
No, I'm saying like guys like a new recruiting class or transfer students that have come into a program. Have you seen that those guys have built a reputation for the program before they've even done anything for it that really allow it to boost in the rankings?
Yeah, I would say there's some, and guys are looking at the performances in the fall, and we had some pretty good measuring sticks too with playing Team USA. But the fact that Thornton coming in here with the accolades that and the recognition that he had in terms of being the top freshman arm in the country, I think that certainly factored in. But also you had two guys that represented your country and played at a high level. You got guys that I think you look at top whatever statistically, offensively at least in the country, we were in a lot of those categories, and all of those guys are back, excluding probably Bishop's numbers are going to be hard to replace, but I think they take all of that into consideration.
On the pitching side, you guys had a couple quality arms, and you guys have also had improvements from people that you already had here before. What do those newcomers bring to the program as far as what you've been able to see, and then what do you think that does for what everybody's been expecting as far as preseason rankings go?
Yeah, they're gonna. The nice part when the newcomers, because I think Benson's going to make some really immediate contributions, maybe ahead of some of the guys, and Graham Osmond's been throwing really well. But the beautiful part of where we are now is those guys don't, you're not thrusting them in there and saying, okay, here the burden of this is on your shoulders. They can kind of grow into those because they've got some good veterans ahead of them. But we expect those guys to compete once the uniform comes off or once the game starts and the uniform's on. It's not like the guy walks out and hitting against, hey, you're a freshman, so I'm going to take it easy on you. You got to grow up very quickly. And our guys have done a really good job of that because they've had good guys to model themselves after.
McLean mentioned that 2 weeks into fall camp, you kind of just threw him out to center field and had him go take some balls. What kind of caused that to do you to throw him out there?
Well, right now, the old adage of being strong up the middle defensively. One, he's a good baseball player. We knew that when we recruited him, that he had a lot of flexibility to move all over the diamond. Hunter Bishop, we thought, played a good center field for us last year. Hunter had catch-up speed. Garcia kind of has that, but Dusty's hurt right now. We wanted to have options, and we wanted his athleticism and speed on the field. And if you look around, no offense to Sean, but Workman's going to be our third baseman, and Malik is going to be the shortstop, and Swifty. So how do you get it on the field? You look at where your need is, and we put him there.
Where are you guys health-wise? You mentioned Dusty's hurt.
I'm very healthy. No, we're in pretty good shape. We grind on him pretty good at this point. Now we'll let off the accelerator and get ourselves ready because the season's a grind, as you know, and guys are in pretty good. We got some little nicks things here or there. Dusty's going to be back probably the second weekend, but other than that, we feel pretty good about where we are.
And Brazell is improving as far as where he was from last week.
He's actually been his last 2 outings in the inter squad have been what we've been envisioning, and kind of back to where we were before that middle role. If you're taking that guy who's throwing that mid-90s stuff on the back end for us last year, and you're now able to get that in the middle innings, that's like, that's good. That's where you want to be as a program.
So it sounds like you have a group of 3 guys who were freshmen last year, sophomores now, LaFlamme, Levine, Brazell, who have really made a jump over the offseason that are vying for that middle relief kind of role.
Yeah, and I say this on the cusp of how old's Mahomes?
24.
I say this on the heels of a 24-year-old winning the World Series or Super Bowl. But young guys do grow up, and it takes a little bit of time in the maturation. Well, he didn't win in his first year, so okay. So guys develop, and as much as you can throw them in that arena early and allow them to get a little taste of what it is, they get better if they have a good work ethic and a good attitude about it. And those guys that maybe struggled a little bit last year on the mound that were freshmen, they're different guys this year. But we're sitting here talking about Torkelson, we're talking about Workman, we're talking about from a position. You guys remember, all we heard is how bad we were defensively 3 years ago, and everybody's like, what happened? And the simple answer to that was we grew up. So same thing can be said for the guys on the mound.
You mentioned the maturation process. How mature of a person does it take to come back like Hunter Jump did and kind of go back to the program that he left?
Well, I think it's an interesting thing because and I love the fact that he did it, and you don't begrudge people for making decisions that they feel is in their best interest, because at the end of the day, we're Arizona State, we want to win championships, but they also have goals too. And he made a decision at that time. to do something he felt was best for him. I can't, far be it for me to tell him what to do. Now I can weigh in on what I think, but I'm not going to tell him what to do. I was happy and proud of him to be able to pick up the phone then and call and say, you know what, I want to come back, because I've seen situations like that where guys have done that and they don't because they think you're mad, or they're embarrassed or whatever. And I just, we all make decisions based on the information we have at the time.
Do you guys ever talk about that bet you had 2 years ago of him throwing 87?
Yeah. I've told that story a few times on that. I still love that story. It got in there, but no, we're excited that he's back and being able to contribute. We know he's good. He's done a really good job since he's been back. So we're excited to see him pick up where he left off, a couple years ago.
You mentioned how Tork can kind of play. You feel in a few different positions. How has he developed defensively since freshman year?
Well, I think really, he's really come along, and that's the tendency I think sometimes when people, particularly with the accolades that have come with him offensively, is they start to focus on that. And also, there's parts of the game you got to work on too. And if you're going to be in conversation for a first overall pick or a top 5 pick, you better be a complete player too. And he's really taken pride in that. He works on it, and he's gotten, I think, a lot better at it.
What specifically has he gotten better at?
Just his mobility, and he works hard on the technique, but he's just more relaxed now. When we moved him over there early on, that was a new position for him, and that just takes time to get comfortable playing. So, but I would say just the fielding part of it, he's saved a lot of guys from throwing errors because of his glove work over there. So, but it's not by accident; it's because he worked at it.